Today, we're going to dive into an idea that pretty much flips one of our most basic assumptions about the universe on its head. You know, the one that says instability and chaos are the end of the line. What if all the turbulence we're feeling isn't a sign of things falling apart, but of something totally new and maybe something more ordered being born? The answer to that question, well, it might just change how you see everything. I mean, it's what we learned in basic science class, right? Systems lean toward entropy, toward a total mess. If you shake up a jar of layered sand, you don't get a prettier pattern, you get chaos. But it turns out that is not the whole story, not even close. And that news story really gets going with a Nobel Prize-winning scientist named Ilya Prigozhin. He gave us a completely new law of nature, and it reveals this incredible secret, how flow literally creates form. So Ilya Prigozhin, he was studying these systems that were far from equilibrium, and what that really means is systems just flooded with energy and information. And what he discovered was, well, it wasn't a slow descent into chaos. It was the spontaneous arrival of new, way more intricate patterns. He called these patterns dissipative structures. Now, the key thing to get is that they aren't static objects. They are stable patterns of flow. Think about it. They hold their shape by constantly pulling in and then releasing or dissipating energy from whatever's around them. So how does this actually happen? It's kind of like this. First, a huge flow of energy or information starts pushing a system to its absolute limits. The old way of doing things, the old structure, it just can't handle the load anymore, and it starts to break down. But, and this is the amazing part, instead of just collapsing into dust, the system spontaneously reorganizes itself into a new, more complex and way more capable structure. And this is not some obscure little reaction in a test tube. It's everywhere. A hurricane is a perfect example, right? It's this highly organized structure that just pops into existence from the chaotic energy of warm ocean water. Living cells, whole ecosystems, even the way we grow emotionally, they all follow this exact same pattern of reorganizing when they're under pressure. So you can have a system that's fluctuating wildly. I mean, it looks totally chaotic, but it doesn't just wander around forever. It gets pulled toward new points of stability, what scientists call attractors. It's almost like the chaos itself is searching for and then finding a new, more elegant way to exist. So here's the most crucial point, the big takeaway. What looks like total chaos from the inside is actually the transition to a higher form of order. The system isn't breaking down, it's breaking through. Okay, so this law applies to chemistry and to weather, but what if it applies to us, to human civilization itself? Now that is the question that drove the incredible visionary thinker Buckminster Fuller. Fuller saw that humanity was creating a brand new kind of energy flow. Not heat, but information. And he predicted that our global networks would create this flood of knowledge so massive that our old structures, the ones built on ignorance and fear and scarcity, they just wouldn't be able to hold. A great reorganization was coming. And Fuller took it a step further. He actually showed us what these new, stable structures would look like. Through his life's work, which he called synergetics, he found the universal building blocks of our world. These fundamental geometric shapes that nature uses for everything, from molecules all the way up to galaxies. He argued that as our chaotic global system finally finds its stability, it will naturally settle into these incredibly strong and efficient forms. For Bucky, geometry wasn't just some abstract math, it was the physical blueprints for a stable world. And here is where it all clicks together. Fuller was describing the geometric result of the very same process Prigozhin saw in those flowing systems. One guy saw it in chemical reactions, the other saw it in the fundamental structure of reality itself and in our civilization. It's the same pattern, just playing out at totally different scales. So what does any of this mean for us, for you and me, right now? Well, it means the incredible instability and disruption we're all experiencing, that might not be the end of the story. I mean, the contrast couldn't be more clear. Our old structures were all built on limitations, on scarcity, on fear, on information locked away behind walls. But these new flows of global connectivity, of networked minds, of transforming energy systems, they are completely overwhelming that old model. It just can't hold anymore. We are living inside that very moment of reorganization. And this is the most hopeful part of this whole idea. During this big shift, things that used to be incredibly difficult, or maybe even seemed impossible, they suddenly become natural. The old constraints of the old system just melt away, opening up completely new ways to solve our biggest problems. This means that feeling of chaos, the pressure, the deep uncertainty we all feel, that is not the feeling of a system dying. It's the feeling of a new, higher order system being born. So, Prigogine and Fuller didn't just give us a scientific theory. They gave us a new lens, a whole new way to interpret the world that's unfolding all around us. It all boils down to this one simple, powerful principle. If you want to create a new, stable reality, you create a persistent flow. Doesn't matter if it's energy in a chemical reaction or information in a society. A sustained flow will always, eventually, create a new structure to handle it. And when all those chaotic, flowing pieces finally click into place, when the relationships finally stabilize and that new pattern locks in, all of a sudden, what once felt like this insurmountable challenge starts to look like the most natural thing in the world. The solution just becomes obvious. And this pattern just repeats at every single scale you can imagine, from the tiniest particles to the biggest galaxies. A new order emerges from the old, and it becomes the foundation for whatever comes next. So I'll just leave you with this question. If you use this lens, if you try to look past all the daily noise and the turbulence, what new, higher order of coherence do you see beginning to take shape in our world today?